Speak English Anyway, a place where confidence matters more than perfection, and every voice deserves to be heard.
Hey everyone, Linda here. Welcome back to the podcast, where we talk about real English for real people with zero judgment and a lot of coffee.
A lot of coffee. That is very accurate.
Very accurate.
And I'm Ethan, and today we're talking about something that I think every English learner has experienced at least once, probably many, many times.
Many times.
You are in a conversation in English, and things are going okay, and then there is a silence, a gap, and you don't know what to say next, and the silence gets bigger and bigger. And suddenly, what started as a normal conversation feels like a test you did not study for.
The silence that eats you alive.
The silence that eats you alive, and the more you think about it,
The worse it gets.
the worse it gets. And then the conversation just dies, right there, in front of you.
Oh, poor conversation. It was doing its best.
It really was. So today, we want to talk about why conversations freeze, what actually keeps them alive, and some very practical things you can do to never let a conversation die on you again.
Or at least die less often.
Realistic goals. We like that here. Okay, before we go in, welcome if this is your first time. Speak English Anyway is the podcast for real English learners. No pressure, no perfection. Just honest conversation.
And if you enjoy this episode, subscribe, share, leave a comment. It helps us so much. Okay, Ethan, let me ask you something.
Sure.
When a conversation in English freezes on you, what does it feel like in your body? Like physically, what happens?
That's a good question. It feels like time slows down. Like every second of silence is 10 seconds long, and my brain starts doing this thing where instead of looking for something to say, it just starts narrating the problem. Oh no, this is awkward. They're waiting. Say something. Why can't I say something? And of course, the narration is not helpful at all.
Your brain becomes a sports commentator for your own failure.
Exactly. A very unhelpful commentator. And here he is, folks, standing in silence for the third second in a row. Will he find a word? It's not looking good.
Stop. But that is so real because I think that is exactly what happens. The moment the conversation pauses, the brain stops being useful and starts being dramatic.
Very dramatic. And what about you? What does it feel like for you?
For me, it feels like reaching into a bag for something. You know, the thing is in there. You put it there yourself, but you just can't find it. Your hand is going around, and everything you touch is the wrong thing.
The words are there, but they're hiding.
They're hiding. They're in the bag. I know they're in the bag, but in that moment, nothing. And then the moment passes, and an hour later, I think of 20 things I could have said.
Always. 1 hour later, never in time.
Never in time. Okay, so why does this happen? Why do conversations freeze?
I think there are a few different reasons, and they're important to understand because the solution depends on the reason.
Right, because not all frozen conversations are the same.
Exactly. So, reason one, you run out of vocabulary. You want to say something, but the word isn't there. And instead of going around it, which we talked about in episode 2, you stop completely.
Yes, the missing word becomes a wall instead of a small detour.
A wall, right. And reason 2, you don't know how to respond to what the other person said. Maybe they used an expression you didn't understand. Maybe the topic shifted and you lost the thread. Maybe you were so focused on thinking about what you were going to say next that you didn't fully listen to what they actually said.
Oh, that last one. That is a big one.
That one is huge because a lot of learners are so busy preparing their next sentence that they miss the sentence the other person is saying right now. And then when it's their turn, they have nothing to respond to because they weren't really listening.
It's like trying to catch a ball with your eyes closed.
Exactly. And reason 3, the fear of silence itself. Some people get so anxious about pauses that the anxiety takes all the mental space that was supposed to be for words. So the silence causes more silence.
The silence feeds itself.
The silence feeds itself. And that is where a lot of people get stuck. So what do we do? let's talk about what actually keeps conversations alive.
Okay, and I want to start with something that completely changed the way I think about conversation.
Tell me.
Conversation is not a performance. It is a game of catch.
Oh, I like that. Say more.
So a lot of people approach conversation like it's a performance, like they're on a stage and they have to be interesting and funny and impressive and speak perfectly. And that is exhausting and impossible.
And it puts all the pressure on you.
All the pressure. But if you think of conversation as a game of catch, someone throws you the ball, you catch it, you throw it back. Suddenly the pressure is shared. Your only job is to catch the ball and throw it back. Not to be impressive, not to perform, just to catch and throw.
And the throw doesn't have to be perfect.
The throw does not have to be perfect. It just has to reach the other person. A slightly wobbly throw is still a throw. The game continues.
I love this because it makes the other person part of the responsibility. You're not alone out there.
You're never alone in a conversation. There are two people, both responsible for keeping it going.
Okay, so how do you catch the ball well? How do you actually listen in a way that gives you something to work with?
Great question. And I think the answer is listen for the hook.
The hook?
Yes. Every time someone speaks, they usually give you at least one hook. One word, one detail, one small thing you can grab and use to keep the conversation going. You just have to train yourself to hear it.
Can you give an example?
Sure. Someone says, "Oh, I had such a long week, I'm exhausted." Most people respond with, "Oh yeah, me too." And then silence. Because me too is a dead end. It gives the other person nowhere to go.
The conversation hits a wall.
Hits a wall immediately. But if you listen for the hook in that sentence is long week. So instead of me too, you say, "Oh, really? What happened?" Or "What made it so long?" Or even just, "Yeah? How come?" And suddenly, the conversation has somewhere to go.
And those are such simple responses. You don't need big vocabulary for that.
You don't need anything impressive. "Oh, really? How come? What do you mean? Tell me more." These are tiny phrases, but they open doors. They say to the other person, "I am here. I am listening. Keep going."
Keep going. And I think that leads to something really important. The most powerful thing you can do in a conversation is make the other person feel heard.
Yes. So much yes.
Because here's the truth. Most people are not waiting for you to be brilliant. They're waiting to feel understood. And if you make someone feel understood, they will carry the conversation with you. They will throw the ball back every time.
Every time. Because being heard is one of the best feelings in the world.
It really is. And it costs nothing. One question, one small response. That's it. Okay, let's talk about the practical toolkit, the actual phrases and moves you can use when a conversation starts to freeze.
Yes. Let's get specific. Move 1. The echo.
The echo.
Yes. When you don't know what to say, repeat the last word or phrase the other person said with a slightly rising tone, like a question.
Show me.
Okay. Someone says, "I've been really into hiking lately." You say, "Hiking?" Just that one word with a curious tone.
And that works?
It works every time because it shows you were listening, it invites them to say more, and it buys you a few seconds to think of a follow-up question.
Buying time while looking engaged. Genius.
It is, and it's so simple. The echo is probably the most underrated conversation tool in the world.
Okay, move to the bridge.
The bridge?
Yes, when a topic feels exhausted, when you've said everything there is to say about the weather or the coffee or whatever you started with, you use a bridge phrase to move to a new topic naturally.
What kind of bridge phrases?
Things like, "That actually reminds me of something," or "Speaking of which," or "On a completely different note," or "Oh, that makes me think, have you ever..." These phrases create a smooth path from one topic to the next. The conversation doesn't die, it just changes rooms.
Changes rooms. I like that. The conversation moves to a new room instead of ending.
Exactly. And you can always go back to an earlier topic, too. Actually, going back to what you said before about, that shows you were paying attention. People love that.
They really do. Okay, move 3. The honest pause.
The honest pause.
Yes, this one is my personal favorite. When you need a moment to think, instead of panicking in the silence, you say something that acknowledges the pause naturally, like, let me think about that for a second. Or, that's an interesting question. I want to answer it properly. Or even just, with a thoughtful face.
Just,
Just, with intention. Because a thoughtful pause is completely different from a panicked silence. A thoughtful pause says, I am taking you seriously. A panicked silence says, I am drowning. Same amount of time, completely different energy.
The energy makes all the difference. And I think that connects to something we said in episode 4 about how the story you tell about a moment changes the experience of it.
Exactly. You reframe the pause. It's not, I don't know what to say. It's, I am thinking carefully because this matters.
Because this matters. And that is actually more impressive than filling every silence with noise.
So much more impressive. Okay, move 4. The self-repair.
Self-repair?
Yes. This is for when you say something and realize halfway through that it's not coming out right. Instead of stopping completely or apologizing dramatically, you just repair it mid-sentence, naturally. Like, what I mean is, or actually, let me put that differently, or sorry, what I'm trying to say is...
And native speakers do this constantly.
Constantly. Listen to any natural conversation in English and you will hear self-repairs every few minutes. It is not a sign of weakness. It is a sign of someone who is communicating carefully.
It actually makes you sound more natural, not less.
More natural, because perfect, uninterrupted sentences are actually a little strange in real conversation. Real conversation is messy, and the mess is part of it.
The mess is part of it. Okay. Word tour time. Let's go through today's vocabulary slowly.
Slowly and clearly. First word, freeze.
To freeze in a conversation means to suddenly stop, to become unable to speak or respond, usually because of nerves or confusion.
For example, I froze when he asked me a question I didn't expect. Or, when conversations freeze, the worst thing you can do is panic about the silence.
Freeze. Repeat. Freeze.
Freeze. Next, hook.
A hook in a conversation is a small detail or word that gives you something to grab onto, something you can use to ask a follow-up question or keep the conversation going.
For example, I always listen for the hook in what the other person says. Or, she mentioned she was tired. That was my hook to ask what had happened.
Hook. Repeat. Hook.
Hook. Next, follow-up.
A follow-up question is a question you ask after someone says something, to go deeper, to show interest, to keep the conversation alive.
For example, instead of just saying, me too, try asking a follow-up question. Or, good follow-up questions make people feel heard.
Follow-up. Repeat. Follow-up.
Follow-up. Next, exhaust.
When a topic is exhausted, it means there's nothing left to say about it. The conversation has used up everything that topic had to offer.
For example, once a topic feels exhausted, use a bridge phrase to move naturally to something new. Or, we exhausted the subject of the weather pretty quickly.
Exhaust. Repeat. Exhaust.
Exhaust. Next, acknowledge.
To acknowledge something means to show that you noticed it or that you are aware of it, to give it recognition.
For example, she acknowledged the pause by saying she needed a moment to think. Or, acknowledging that you didn't understand is always better than pretending you did.
Acknowledge. Repeat. Acknowledge.
Acknowledge. Next, repair.
In conversation, a repair is when you correct or adjust something you said, going back to fix or clarify a word, phrase, or idea mid-sentence or just after.
For example, I made a repair when I realized my sentence wasn't coming out right. Or, self-repair is a completely natural part of real spoken English.
Repair. Repeat. Repair.
Repair. And last one, thread.
The thread of a conversation is the connecting line, the flow that links everything together and keeps the conversation coherent and moving forward.
For example, I lost the thread when they changed topics too quickly. Or good listeners always help keep the thread of the conversation alive.
Thread. Repeat. Thread.
Thread. Okay. 3 actions for this week.
Small actions. Gentle steps. No pressure.
Action 1. This week, in any conversation, English or not, practice listening for the hook. Every time someone speaks, find the one word or detail you could use to ask a follow-up question. Just notice it. You don't even have to use it yet. Just train your ear to find it.
Action 2. Learn 2 bridge phrases by heart. Pick 2 from today. That actually reminds me. And on a completely different note, say them out loud 10 times each. Get them in your mouth so they come out automatically when you need them.
Action 3. The next time a conversation pauses and you feel the panic starting, try the honest pause. Say, let me think about that, out loud, and let yourself actually think. See what happens.
See what happens. Because usually what happens is the conversation continues, and you realize the pause was never as dangerous as it felt.
The pause is never as dangerous as it feels.
Okay, quick recap of today's big ideas.
Big idea 1. Conversation is not a performance. It is a game of catch. Your job is to catch the ball and throw it back, not to impress anyone.
Big idea 2, listen for the hook. Every sentence has one. Find it and use it to keep the conversation going.
Big idea 3. Making the other person feel heard is more powerful than anything impressive you could say. One follow-up question. That's it.
Big idea 4, have a toolkit ready. The echo, the bridge, the honest pause, the self-repair. These are your moves. Practice them until they're automatic.
And big idea 5. The mess is part of real conversation. Pauses, repairs, imperfect sentences, these are not failures. They are proof that a real human conversation is happening.
A real human conversation. That is the goal. Not a perfect one. A real one.
A real one. Okay, question for the comments. What is your go-to move when a conversation starts to freeze? Do you use the echo, the bridge, something else entirely?
Tell us. We want to build a toolkit together with all of you.
Take care of your English.
And take care of your heart.
This is Linda.
And this is Ethan. You've been listening to Speak English Anyway.
Bye, everyone.
Bye. And remember, the conversation is not yours to carry alone. Throw the ball. Trust the other person to catch it.